So I will go ahead and introduce. Hi, Storm. Hey, if you don't mind sitting up in the first 3 rows, that'd be great. Thanks. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Kelly Fair. Kelly is the founder and executive director of Polished Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program, an Illinois Gold Star rated organization that empowers girls and young women through life skill development, career readiness, and leadership training. Kelly is the author of They're All the Same Girl, and Every Girl is a CEO. And she's an award-winning social entrepreneur and in-demand speaker, known for her advocacy in mentoring, workforce development, and women's empowerment. Please join me in welcoming Kelly.
Good afternoon, everybody. What I'd like to do today is be pretty informal, so I like to kind of just call it kitchen table conversation. I'm going to go through a little bit today of just, of course, giving you some about my background and what I do with Polished Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program. I'm also an Iowa alum. I was here for a master's program. But today I want to hit a little bit, my theme is going to hit a little bit on purpose. I think everybody in here has some level of purpose as to why you're taking this course, why nonprofit, social impact work resonates with you in some way, shape, or form. Risk-taking is another one of my themes I want to hit on. It's always very necessary to take some really great risks. And I've taken some risks in my walk and kind of leadership and doing the work that I've done as well. And it's not just the wolves on Wall Street and the business people that take risks. Even in the nonprofit sector and the social impact work, you got to take risks to be successful and to grow your efforts. And then, of course, leadership in the nonprofit sector as well. And I don't care if you're an ED or make sure we back that up, executive director. So if I say ED, I mean executive director, or you're a founder, or you run a big nonprofit or a small nonprofit, global, national, local, whatever it is, we all lead. And the members of your team lead from different ways as well. So just want to hit on some of those different things today. Then I want to leave a good amount of time. What time is this session over?
It is done at 3:15.
Perfect, okay. So I want to leave a good amount of time for some good dialogue. So think of your questions, think of your thoughts. There are no dumb questions. They are all great. And let's just go ahead and have a really great conversation. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Jennifer, for such a warm reception in regard. I haven't been in Iowa for about 7 to 10 years. And I've been here in school. I finished in 2003. So just really grateful to be back and to talk a little bit about the impact that Iowa had on my career as well. But I'm going to start off first about something that was really this big deal. So I'm a girl who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and there used to be this thing called Take Your Daughter to Work Day. Now, I don't know how I found out about it, if it was TV, whatever, but I did. And I told my parents, I said, look, kids, girls don't have to go to school on this one particular day. We get to go to work with our parents, and I told them, like, this is what we're going to do, right? And I thank God, and actually, everybody give a hand clap. My mother is here. She was with me today, and also kind of my side videographer for the day as well. But I'm always very grateful about the example that my parents set for us, and more importantly, that my parents advocated for me. They did not say, that's crazy, that's dumb, what are you talking about, you're going to school? They said, okay. And so that was a thing. And I was going to go to work with my dad, and I was all excited that out of school. I knew I would get McDonald's for lunch. And more importantly, I would get to hang out with my dad as well. And so I went to work with him, and, you know, my dad wore a suit. He used to be the director of purchasing for the city of Evanston, Illinois. He was sharp, he was professional, and he was polished in it. But I remember watching him and how he carried himself, how people reacted to him, how kind he was, but serious. He spoke with care and confidence, and people reacted to him. They smiled. They said, sure, Kevin. They had great meetings. You can tell he had a really great working relationship with everybody in this office. And so it was great to see my dad in action. But even more importantly, that day I saw access. What that looked like for me, even as a girl if I was going to go into that career or not. I saw possibilities of who I can be and what work could feel like. And I got a chance to see what leadership looked like up close and personal. So it was just a phenomenal day for me. And plus, the McDonald's was hitting, and it was great to get out of school. So that was wonderful. But if you go back, it's 15 years now since I founded and started Polished Pebbles in 2009. And later in life, when I started Polished Pebbles, the moment that I had on that Take Your Daughter to Work day with my dad came back to me. Because when I started in 2009, I'm from Chicago, I'm from the South Side, and that's where I decided I wanted to start my work. It was right there in the communities in which I was raised. And I had to think about it. Okay, I got a girls mentoring program that I want to focus on communication skills. What way do I engage school-age girls? So that's middle school girls and high school girls, and talking about communication, embracing it as a really important thing. And I got to thinking about that moment in which I went to work with my dad for Take Your Daughter to Work Day. And I was like, oh, work is the perfect place to put it all together. Kids get it. And most kids want to be successful, particularly some kids for certain communities. You want to take care of your family. And you understand employment is the way to get there. They just go to work with their parents. And I got to thinking about my experience, and I had to pause. Because the reality is, the many of the girls that we serve in our communities, the Black and brown communities, South Side, West Side, different suburbs within the city, their parents don't have the type of careers to say, grab your notebook, grab your knapsack, and you just hang out with me at work for the day. And so for me, that's not their fault. That's not their parents' fault, right? It's just because that structure and, again, that access wasn't there. But the important for me when I got to make this decision to start Polished Pebbles is I had to realize it wasn't just something that I should have. Every girl deserves to have what I had that day. Every girl deserves to see it, and every girl gets an opportunity to realize that she too can be a CEO. And I'll talk a little bit about that further. That is the title of my Career and Success Guide that I published back in 2020, but it's also the core, center theme, and the brand for a lot of our sub-programming that we have going on in the organization as well. So the thought was, it ain't just for Kelly Fair. Every girl should have that same opportunity. And so I was really tasked as, that's part of my purpose with Polished Pebbles, is how do I afford that opportunity for all the girls that I serve, and every girl should have that opportunity as well. So I got started on wanting to found Polished Pebbles, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background and the structure of it first as we move forward before I get into it. And of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got there from a Iowa journey as well. But let me click a little bit further. Jennifer, you know, I told you
Is that
I'm
the
always,
down arrow? Or
yeah,
there
there
you
you
go.
go.
And do you
Girl.
mind if I hand out your book?
Oh, yeah,
Or
sure.
can they
Yep, they can pass them
kind
around.
of look, yeah.
Absolutely.
I know Nora was asking about them, and if that's okay.
Absolutely, please do. Yep.
Yeah.
So, as Jennifer is passing around the books, I'm going to, of course, talk and give a little bit of background about Polished Pebbles and structure and how we move through it. But for me, as a social entrepreneur, as a nonprofit leader, this visual is a representation of what any given day could look like. I get busy doing so many different things and flipping and wearing so many hats and wearing so many different roles. Half the time I can't remember what I did this morning, let alone yesterday. So I always got to kind of flip back to my calendar. Sometimes I have to look at Instagram to remember what I may have done last week. But my walk, my daily walk, could include a variety of many of these things. Going to visit the girls at some of the sites that we're working with. As you can see, I come out and I speak pretty frequently. I'm an author as well. We have to do fundraisers like the Chicago Girls Takeover that we did in 2017. I have to present and prepare myself for media. That's written media, that's visual media, podcast, radio, TV. You gotta be ready and gotta stay ready. And then mentorship continues to be a thing that's really important for me as well. I'm in a fellowship right now. You never stop learning. You never stop growing. You never stop building your whole leadership capacity. And so mentorship was something that I'll share, of course, was important for me as little girl Kelly. But mentorship along your nonprofit leadership journey is something that's going to continue to be a piece that will be important for anyone working in the nonprofit sector and doing this work. So as I move through, I want to talk a little bit about kind of our 4 core programs for Polished Pebbles. And when I started it in 2009, I was kind of keeping some of the work that a previous mentor had trained me on. It was just a monthly group mentoring program on the south side of Chicago, based out of a faith-based institution that was for girls. It would have a group of girls and then a group of women who wanted to volunteer monthly and work in that program. And so I decided to kind of keep and follow that same type of model for my program. It started off just as a monthly group mentoring Saturday program. Since that time, we have expanded from, of course, that one time a month program to serve close to about 10,000 girls. And that is in the city of Chicago. We've done some work in Northwest Indiana, our next door neighbor. We've done work in Dallas, Texas. For 4 years, we had a college edition of our program at Duke University, working with undergraduate students, female students of color. And then we've done global work, right? So we have a global conference I'll talk about shortly, in which we touch girls from different parts of the globe in a one-day virtual global conference as well. When it comes to every year, I serve probably anywhere from about 500 to 1,500 girls a year. We have grown in the last year. We're starting to scale down a little bit, and I'll talk about our transition. But we have served about 50 school or sites a year. So that includes summer programs, that includes schools through about 900 square miles of programmatic real estate. That's a marketing flex right there. One of my board members gave me that to think about how do we talk about how we serve and where we serve. And then when I talk about how I serve and where I serve, a lot of times I want people to know the demographic of girls that I serve as well. Yes, we serve predominantly African-American girls, but in a city like Chicago, we are a city of neighborhoods, right? It's very much identified by neighborhoods, and the neighborhood gives you a gauge of where in the city, who may live there, all of those different things. So often I'll tell people we go as far north as Albany Park, as far south as Altgeld Gardens, east, west, and then we hit the south suburbs and some of the western suburbs. When I tell them I go as far north as Albany Park, it sends a message to them that yes, I may be African-American woman. You may see a lot of pictures of African-American girls in the picture as well. But if you know Chicagoland, and that's sometimes the audience that I'm really focusing my talks on, they know that Albany Park is a really diverse community where the linguistic diversity is really intense as well. So it means that I have a little bit of reach. I'm going to drop some of those things as I talk a little bit, because one of the things I'm going to hit before we leave is I'm going to talk a little about and have conversations about transferable skills, right? Everybody in here, I'm sure, doesn't have the same major. Don't matter. You may want to go and take your nonprofit background and social impact sector information and use it in different ways. It is all gravy. But the important part is you have to know what skills are really important and be able to put those things in place and make it work for you wherever you go at any stage of your career as well. So the point is, we served a lot of girls. We serve a lot of girls a year. We served a lot of girls over time, and we continue to do so. But I do it through 4 core programs, right? So the 4 core programs first includes our Polished Pebbles Core Social Emotional Learning Mentoring Program. That's basically where Monday through Friday you can find us in a variety of those schools in those 900 square miles as a school day or after school program. We work with tweens and teens. Tweens are your fun, middle schoolers. If you can make it with middle school, I think you can go up or you can come down, right? If you can master that age group. And then we also work with high school students too. But middle school happens to be my largest demographic, okay? And so we work on social emotional learning skills. That's stuff like character building, life skills, problem solving, communication skills. And we also work a lot on career readiness. So what did I do for these girls when I think about my experience with Take Your Daughter to Work Day when I was a school-age girl? I wanted to bring that experience to the Polished Pebbles girls that we work with. And so as a part of the core social emotional learning mentoring program, the culminating event after 15 to 25 weeks of Polished Pebbles is what? A job shadow at one of our partnering companies. Now, that's another thing that we're going to talk a little bit about skills, transferable skills. Relationship management is everything. Just take it, accept it. You got to be able to do it. And if it's not your stronghold, you got to have somebody on your team that definitely can do that as well. So in order to have enough companies to partner with and individuals and professionals to have 50 schools and sites, I have to have a lot of companies. So we've worked with well over 100 companies across industries and sectors, small businesses, large businesses, global businesses, healthcare leaders like Blue Cross Blue Shield, construction leaders. We got a Pink Heart Hats program. I'll talk about that shortly. Restaurants, retail, whatever you got, right? Just a couple of weeks ago, because we like really being trailblazers in this space when it comes to exposing girls to new careers, we had an event called the Cowgirl Collective, right? And I'll talk about that shortly, but we expose girls to careers in the equestrian industry. So we love getting it in and exposing our girls to different things. So the girls finished with a culminating job shadow at the end of the school year. And then we started thinking about the opportunities for girls to continue to grow and for us to work with them over the summer. And we also thought about what's that motivating thing. Girls love the job shadow because it's kind of like, I want to work today, I get to hang out, I go to this company. So it makes them feel really important. We started thinking about how do we keep kids engaged in our programming over time from that middle school age. Well, we created the Every Girl's a CEO Summer Work Study program. And there's a lot of funds in the Chicagoland area to create for youth employment. So we created a whole program based off of this book and all about training and prepping girls for career readiness skills, and they get their very first paychecks. You just get paid to learn how to write a resume and go on job shadows. Like at 14, 15, like that's everything. And so the girls absolutely love it. It's usually about 6 or 7 weeks, 4 half days a week, and it culminates again with another job shadow. So as you can see here, we're investing in, we talked about 2 core programs from what we call the Polished Pebbles Career Pipeline. Where are we pipelining these girls? From the schoolyards, from any community to the future boardrooms, or maybe to the future work sites. Or if you're in the equestrian industry and you love being an animal scientist, we're pipelining you into the future horse ranch or stable, right? Wherever that end place may be for them in the future workplace. We believe in taking school-age girls on down this pipeline. So it could be through the social emotional school year program, through the job shadows, then the summer work study program, and then we want to keep building their leadership. So for those who rise up, we put them in position to be student ambassadors. They may do media, they may host a guest speaker. We create leadership opportunities for them. And then we get to working with our companies to see if they can get an external placement, right? We created these like mini apprenticeships and mini internships. I'll talk some about relationship management, negotiation, and all of those things. It's talking to companies to say, you know what, we got some really powerful 14 to 15-year-old girls. Company professionals thinking, who wants to be bothered with little middle school or high school age girls, right? To be perfectly honest, they tremble when you guys come in for the summer because they don't even really know what to do with college students for 6 to 10 weeks over the summer too. Just giving straight facts, So then when I try and advocate for younger girls, of course, their minds are completely closed to that, right? So we'll talk about one of the most important transferable skills that I think is powerful is, of course, because I think it's important for girls, but it's important for us at every stage, and that's those communication skills. But it also takes problem solving and understanding people's bottom lines to figure out how to finesse and get them to get external placements. We created this mini internship where it's like, look, don't worry about it. You don't have to do 6 weeks with these little girls. You can just do 1 week, maybe 2, and just do a half day where you kind of walk them through like a mini job shadow every day. We'll co-design it with you. We'll help customize it for you. And we provide that level of comfort to the professionals so they continue to give me access to their companies, continue to create these placements and opportunities for our girls. And then, of course, we keep moving them down a career pipeline. I'll talk about some of our success stories. We want eventually these companies to come and hire some of our girls when they get old enough for full-time employment. More importantly, we want the girls to have a level of success and to feel some confidence to say, we went to Bloomingdale's department store for a job shadow. I love Bloomingdale's. I can do this. I found out that you have to only be 18 to get a job there. And wouldn't you know, some of the girls, without us even knowing, went and actually applied and got jobs at Bloomingdale's and other different places. That's the winning part. But the important part is then moving to mentoring the next generation. So now I've been doing this for 15 years, and back in the day, I have a team of about 30 or so. And we're streamlined a bit, but we just kind of maxed out at about 30 with staff members who go out and work with individuals and girls in the schools and different communities. But back in the day, Kelly Fair was the executive director, the founder, the accountant, the everything, and then I also was the facilitator, the mentor that worked directly with girls. And these are a couple of them. There were 6th, 7th, 8th graders or so when I first started out. And now they are coming back as working professionals and saying, can I have dinner? Let's hang out. And I'm like, okay. And it was so cute. Amber is an engineer with the engineering firm called Sargent and Lundy. And she was so impressed. She was back in Chicago. And the Soho Club is very much a thing in Chicago and a lot of different cities. So she hosted me. And when I got upstairs, she goes, I am grown now. She was like, I get to have dinner with the distinguished Kelly Fair, which made me feel really warm and inside and feel very grateful. And it goes back to purpose, right? She's one of the reasons why I decided to do this work, to give access, to give opportunities, to let them see the possibility. But now, she's at the end of the career pipeline. She's made it, she's working, but now she's recycling this whole thing back and coming back to mentor the next generation. So she said, Miss Kelly, I know we did job shadows at Bloomingdale's, and that was really great. I learned a lot. But we need more stuff in STEM. We need to expose girls to engineering and technology. I want to host the girls at my firm. And as the kids say, I said, say less. So now as a working professional, she went and advocated for Polished Pebbles in our company. She brought us in and had me make the pitch. She was even checking me and keeping me in line. Like, Miss Kelly, I didn't get your PowerPoint. What are you doing? But nonetheless, we pitched and got her company. So now she's hosting the generation of girls. But think how powerful that image is. She used to be a Polished Pebble. Kasia Carwell was also a Polished Pebble. They were actually both at the same school. She's another one that said, hey, Miss Kelly, let's have dinner when I take off for Christmas vacation. She came back, and Kasia, a girl from the South Side, how did she figure out? I said, did you have pets and animals like when you were little? She goes, no. And we found out we both grew up in the same neighborhood. She just loved animals, and she went to Mizzou. She majored in animal science and with a focus on horse science. She is now an expert thoroughbred racehorse trainer down in Lexington, Kentucky. And so how powerful, how unique is that? I said, you got to come back and get in front of girls. But we're not going to like a school or library, like we got to do this on the horse ranch, right? And again, what's some of my skills, transferable skills that make it work? You are a marketer, okay? You are always having to present, and now you got all the extra pressures of social media. So that's my mom was here to get some content with me speaking and talking to this group. So as a marketer, and I said, okay, cool. So let's come back. And now, does that mean I'm an expert in any of these industries? No. But I'm also a constant learner, and I can read, and I can figure some things out, and I can put things together. So I said, let's come back. She connected me with a horse ranch in the south suburbs of Chicago. We brought the girls, and we played off with a whole Beyonce Cowboy Carter theme, and we called the event, what? Cowgirl Collective. And so she brought her friend, who was a veterinarian that also went to Mizzou. And I'm going to tell you, these little girls, it was 50 girls in pink cowgirl hats and T-shirts that showed up, and they were mesmerized by Kasia and Dr. Nia, and watching them demonstrate and show things, the biology and how they work with horses right there in person. Now, people always say, oh, kids want to move. Kids don't like that. Kids do whatever you help them understand is engaging and important. And especially when you make these ladies the superstars, they engage them with Q&A for almost 2 hours, right? But it's different. It was powerful. And it's doing what I want to do in my leadership role at this point. Is I want to take up more space and realize my place in this ecosystem. I'm a trailblazer. I go out, I create. Everybody thought I was nuts when I started Polished Pebbles, and I said, hey, we should expose school-age girls to careers. And they're like, I don't know about that. Well, all my friends now have what? Job shadows, right? Because regardless if you want to know it or not, nonprofit, independent, or market that you work in can be extremely competitive, okay? So it's all types of remix going on. But I'm not mad about it now. Sometimes it makes it hard when you're competing for funding, right? But I'm not mad about it because at this point in my leadership, that's what I'm supposed to do. Kelly Fair comes up with some really great ideas and pushes the ecosystem into doing some stuff that everybody should be doing. And then when we do that, everybody wins. Because now it's just not the 50 girls that I brought to learn about careers in the equestrian industry. That means that Polished Pearls or Ladies of Diamond Energy, whatever, girls programs, Girl Scouts, they'll say, ooh, we want to do Cowgirl Collective too. You should. And now we've increased that number of girls who are now exposed to a new industry and will see successful examples of what that looks like, right? So for me, when I think about that, we're creating pathways for our girls to continue to grow. Now, I told you about our school-based mentorship program. That's one of our core programs. I talked about the Every Girl's a CEO summer work study program. It's also a global virtual career conference. So we do a lot of different things. And that all happened because we were just going to have a career conference for the girls in Chicago in 2020. But what happened in 2020 was, of course, the pandemic. So we made it virtual. Because I do so much speaking in different places, I worked with some young ladies who were from India. They saw me posted on LinkedIn and said, can we come? I said, come on. This is what we do, right? That's my purpose. And so it became global in that moment. And then we just decided to be intentional about it. The powerful opportunity for girls to look into the computer and now become global citizens, that we're creating a network of girls all over the world who have problems with access to education, access to careers, access to workforce development. But now when they look in a computer, they see a reflection of themselves. So African-American girls on the south side of Chicago now got to see girls from South Africa on the other side of the globe that look like them. And kind of in many ways, their experience in South Africa is very similar to some of the experiences that the girls have here as well. And we kept growing it to Jamaica, to Kenya. This year we're doing Chad. So we'll have to have translators because they only speak in Arabic, right? So global conferences, and then we also have a mommy and daughter program in which mothers and daughters build bonds by building business plans as well. So, but you can see the theme and the running thread there for me, and also for what I created, is the power of mentorship. Why mentorship matters and the type of impact that it has on kind of changing the game for any girl, for any young person, male, female, any gender, and being able to kind of push the envelope. So when I came to the university in Iowa in 2001, I came straight from my undergraduate institution. I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C. And that's a historically black college and university, and it was a great experience for me. I'm from the South Side. I went to Howard, went to Washington, D.C., so I was like, I'm a city girl. I need to be in the city. I probably wouldn't go have a car so I could get on public transportation. And then Howard was one of those institutions that's a global leader in so many different ways. And that was important for me. Mentorship happened for me at Howard. Mentorship happened for me in my community, in my family. My parents, of course, gave me really great examples of what advocacy, entrepreneurship, good work ethic could look like. I'd always worked as a girl because I just thought, girls should be career women. I was going to take it on a work day. I wanted to be like the women in Essence magazine, a magazine directed towards African-American women. And they were great family women. They were beautiful. They had great clothes, but they had jobs. So it's always been a running theme of mentorship. And I needed it because I am a speech pathologist by training. That's what I majored in when I was at Howard. And then they got to the point where you were preparing for master's degrees, and because that's the only way you could continue practice in the field of speech pathology. And so my professors at Howard said, think about Iowa. Iowa is like number 1 in the country in speech pathology. Apply. And so I did. And I got in, got a fellowship to come here, but I will be honest with you. I probably wouldn't have used that language back then, but I probably felt a little bit of, I was experiencing a little imposter syndrome. Because again, if you look at the images, the stories, the things that are out there, you don't necessarily see a lot of times, especially back then, images of black women being professionals and being in certain environments and being successful, or being a welcoming environment as well. So when I was preparing to come to Iowa, I was like, okay, this is great. I'm scared. And because I'm black, you know what? And it's number one, they don't know more than me. They'll probably be more experienced than me, have more skills. I automatically thought that I was going to have to play some catch up, right? And that just should not be. But sometimes if you haven't had access, haven't had opportunities, also if the media and society is not promoting that girls can do this, girls should do this, girls like you could, it's easy to fall into that trap. But I thank God for the mentorship that I had because it helped kind of kick in when things got a little rough and I got nervous. And it helped reassure me not only was I supposed to be here, I was good. I was smart enough, I can hang with it, I can handle it. And then the theme of mentorship continued for me even here at Iowa. And so our department chair, Dr. Richard Hurdig, he's not here anymore. He pretty much kind of took me into his lab. I had a fellowship and he mentored me. He invested time in me. I got to work on his research studies and build my skills there. And then he became my thesis chair and he gave me the opportunity to not be limited, but to go to like the next level on what I wanted to do for my master's thesis, which was over the top. And I'm a September Virgo, and that's just what we do sometimes. So, but it was a really, really great program. And it was kind of like no limit. I was like, ooh, Dr. Hurdig, I know it costs too much when we do this. No. Put down what you want. Put down what you want. And so for me, that was a really empowering moment. And it helped me really rise to the top of my class here in my master's program. And I got done. And it really kind of was powerful for me. The mentorship at Iowa and that connection didn't stop just when I graduated from Iowa. So one would think that my next step would be is like, all right, cool, you got a bachelor's and a master's degree in speech pathology. You're going to go be a what? Speech pathologist. Which is what my plan was. I had a set job, but I didn't have one for the summer. And so a faith-based institution had a summer work study program. They said we need a coordinator. And I went in and I created a program and did that. And they liked me. And they were like, well, why don't you just stay on full time? And in my 23-year-old mind, I was like, nonprofit program manager, let's do it. Whoever thought that this opportunity would come. And it did. So I said to my other job, like, hey, thank you so much, however, and I took on this challenge. Was that not a risk, right? I had a set job with a set amount of pay that was probably a little bit more than what I was taking. But that lure and that opportunity to have that management position, to do something that I thought was something only I could do much further off, I took that risk, and it kind of paid off for me in lots of different ways. And I grew from there. But Iowa kept pulling me back in and said, hey. So Dr. Hurdig, my department chair, worked with a couple of other professors in my department, and they had a literacy curriculum that they had created. And actually it was a really dope business. It made a lot of money back in the 90s and the early 2000s. That company got acquired by McGraw-Hill, the textbook publishing company. And so they wanted to do a big research study in Chicago public schools. It was going to be in 100 preschool, kindergarten classrooms. Dr. Hurdig says, I know somebody in Chicago. She can do it. She can help manage it. And so I became somewhat of a project manager there. Oh my goodness. 100 preschool and kindergarten classrooms all across the city of Chicago. You can only imagine the amount of exposure I got, the things and the other skills I'll talk about that I learned there as well. But the important thing is now I became eventually a manager there. And I was a manager again at a young age and one of only 2 African-American managers in that entire company. So I was like young, and I found out like behind my back they were like calling me Little Beyonce, which you could take a couple of different ways. But I was like, all right, cool. But I had to show up and really show them what had to be done and that I could do the job. Again, the mentorship, the validation that Dr. Hurdig gave for me to be included in this project kind of spurred me again to take some risks. So I took a risk. Now, this is a product that Dr. Hurdig and them had. It was a powerful product called Breakthrough to Literacy. But the problem was it was a $15,000 per classroom deal. Yeah, I know, your mouth opened up. And that's how people feel who had to sell this product out in the field. Now, you would get the books and the computers and all the curriculum, but you would also get a professional development person to do training. That's why it costs so much. But the salespeople were like, we hate this product. It's too much money. Nobody wants to buy it. They were closed off, couldn't stand it, didn't want to do it. When I got in and they then promoted me to a national marketing manager, I didn't know jack about marketing. But again, they were like, don't worry about it. will train you. Everybody in this industry, if you have content knowledge, will teach you the business aspect. So I had to create marketing tools to train the salespeople who were seasoned professionals on how to sell this product. But I knew they hated it. I would get nasty grams, nasty emails like, I hate this product, I don't understand it, I can't sell it, I can't do it. So when I walked into Las Vegas, we had a big sales meeting, and I had all these new marketing tools that I had to show them. I said, how am I going to engage them? How am I going to get their buy-in? How am I going to get them and communicate that we got to figure out a way to make this product work? So again, I took another risk. And I think I couldn't have been no more than like 25, 26 or something. And I was like, you know what? The mascot for this product was an elephant. And it was like elephant mascots all over the place. And I was like, I got it. I want to get their buy-in. I want to get their attention. I'm going to kill the elephant. And I did that. So we got together in the big sales meeting room. And I took the mascot, a picture of it. And you know, at a funeral, there's usually a picture of the deceased with a big floral arrangement around it. I did that. Gave the date in which the company was founded to that particular year. And I turned on a song called Sam Cooke, A Change Gonna Come, so it's very somber. And I walked in my best widow black suit and my, church lady hat with the black veil and my box of tissues and, was play teasing and tearing up. And when they saw it, the room just cracked up because it was exactly what everybody needed. It was that comedic moment where everybody needed to release how much they couldn't stand a product, how challenging and frustrating it was to work, but I got their buy-in. I broke them down at that moment and provided a space where they would finally hear me and perhaps give me a chance for leadership. You're going to have to take some really big risks like that as well. It's a risk for me to be like this here today. I got tons of things I'm doing, tons of things that I have going, but for me, when I think about purpose in my next 15 years, it's making sure that more of you guys have the skills, the opportunity, and exposure to know what it really takes to be successful in the social impact field. So you don't have to make some of the sacrifices that I made, make some of the mistakes, but we can increase the impact in what it is that you chose to do. So I had to take that big risk. Now let's do this. Let's flip a little bit. Let's talk about some of these skills that are interested in and they transcend industries. If you can do some of these kind of big four skills, you can be successful in any business, nonprofit, social sector, work at a university, work whatever, any industry, and you can be really, really powerful at it as well. And so one of the things that I think is really important, of course, as I've said before, over and over and over again, are communication skills. And one day, I could communicate with a variety of different stakeholders and audiences. If you can imagine. When I say stakeholders, that's almost kind of like, for me, another word, like, who's my customers? And I got a couple of different customers. Now, your first thought is probably, girls, you work to make life better for us. Yes, there's a whole bunch of other people that come into play that make that happen. So, yes, I have to be able to walk into a room with middle school girls and be able to communicate with them well, high school girls, engage them. I'm a little bit older, so it's not necessarily quite as much of my role. But I got to be able to, when I need to get a school to partner with me and allow me to work with their girls, I got to know what's important to the principal. What's important to the principal is, she's got bullying going on. How do we stop it? She feels like the girls are not taking advantage of the different opportunities. So how do we motivate the girls? So I got to be able to communicate what's important to her. When I need a company, like I mentioned earlier, I got to be able to communicate why is it important to invest in girls. And I have to be able to say things like this. They'll say, well, I can see high school students, but not middle school. I don't want to, it's a waste of my time. And I'm like, no. Now I'm a negotiator. Now I'm making sure that I'm positioning properly. And I said, no girl's going to come and join a construction field, like in our Pink Heart Hats program, if you don't expose them to it like in 3rd or 5th grade. Research says that girls are making decisions about what they can do and can't do as early as 3rd through 5th grade. And then making decisions about girls that look like me, can't do this, don't do this, based on the examples and the role models that they get a chance to see. So if you wait till 15 or 16 to try and tell a girl she can pour cement and become concrete certified, she's probably not interested in it because she's never been exposed to it. But if you show a 3rd through 5th grader she can get engaged with it, she's got engaged with a company, she likes hanging out at your office because y'all wear jeans and y'all eat pizza for lunch, then they go out on the worst. I mean, these are the things that the kids absolutely love. Like, I kid you not. Oh man, this lady sat at the table and showed us she was really nice. I like to know more about her, and then the company is involved with that same school over time. So I'm always convincing people why my mission, why my purpose matters, and where they fit into it, and how they feel special about it. So communication matters, but emotional intelligence matters. Think about when I killed the elephant. If I did not go in there and kill that elephant, they wouldn't have heard a doggone thing I said. I already told you, they called me Little Beyonce, right? And quite frankly, they didn't call me Beyonce. What I found out is, you know, and Beyonce's nickname is B. Well, B could go a couple of different ways. Okay? So, did I get mad about it? I may not have liked it, but did I own it? Yep. I had to own how they may feel. Sometimes when you go in and pitch, you may have a funder that doesn't think that you can do it. They may think that your organization is too small, too inexperienced, and you have to take that challenge on and go in there. I had to kill that elephant. If I didn't kill that elephant and do it skillfully, incredibly, they wouldn't have heard a thing and bought my credibility. So emotional intelligence matters. And then the other part that's really important is being outcomes driven. So I'm always have to stay really focused on results. You get a grant, you said you were going to split this money up between 8 schools. Your funder will come back and ask you for reports to demonstrate that you actually worked at those 8 schools, where and how you sent the money. So you can't just get the opportunity. You have to be able to demonstrate and build that trust with them that you can actually do what you say you're going to do. So that it means that you constantly have to stay focused on results and think about not just the activity. And it's like, but I love what we're doing. The girls are happy. Look at them. They're happy. That ain't what goes in the report, and that's not giving them the confidence that you're continue to be the type of organization that they want to grow in and be invested in. So I'm going to kind of round up here, and I want to talk about, again, I told you guys I've been doing this for 15 years. So for me, what's the next 15 years look like? What's the next steps? And so what's important to me is being able to make sure more girls get touched, more girls get programming. I was just in the Tippy College of Business and working with some of the international business leaders, and we were talking about some of the partners that I have globally, partners that they have. And he says, you know, what I'm hearing from all the different partners in different countries, particularly in some of the African countries, is that the girls don't have access to education, don't have access to careers. That is a global problem, right? And I'm like, yep, that's the thing. Then I have to be listening, because listening is a really key important skill, because you got to understand what the problem is, how the problem changes, how it evolves, and you got to make connections. And I'm like, that's a problem globally, and a lot of my partners are saying that and want to grow with us. But my God, I just went to a school around the corner from my mother's house on the south side of Chicago. They haven't had funds to have a girls program either. Principal told me haven't had one in 10 to 11 years. So for me, I want to train other people on how to use books like the Every Girl is a CEO curriculum, the student books. We've created instructors manuals, and I want to do professional development and train the trainers so that every girl gets served. No school should have to go without programming because they don't have the discretionary funds. No program should not have to have all 100% of their girls touched if they want to, because there's not enough space on the virtual platform. And so for me, that's where I see the next 15 years of my leadership and the work that we do with College Pebbles, and hopefully encouraging the other organizations to do the same. Train the people in the schools, let them know and give them the resources and the support to do so. And I'll be doing a lot of that. The goal for me when I think about the full circle moment is that I've got the young ladies who are coming back from 6th grade, and now they're grown and they're invested in giving back. That's like, stamp on that. Now I'm invested in my give back and making sure that others are helping to close the gap so more girls get served. So I'll leave you with this. What are you going to do with some of the skills that you've gained here during this time? Regardless if you go into nonprofit fully or not, or you just take a piece of it, you're always thinking about what's the next step, what's the outcome, how do you get there, how to take some of these skills that you're bringing and experiences and connect and pull and put things together. So I'm very grateful to be here. To share my story of leadership, but also for you, my passion for mentorship. And so my goal for you is not only just what you do in your long-term career, but you guys, even as students, what are you doing to give back? What are you doing to contribute to the next generation or even your classmates? Because mentorship really matters. So thank you so much for having me.
So I know I have some questions. Nora probably does too. And so I think we can just kind of open it up, if that's okay.
Real informal.
I mean, the first question I have is, when do you sleep?
Not enough.
Yeah.
I've had seasons where we kind of were plateaued, and it's like you're kind of chill.
Yeah.
And then you got to pivot. You had to pivot in the pandemic to figure it out. I'm at another pivoting point where sometimes at the end of the day, if you're a founder or you're leading a nonprofit, you're essentially almost like an entrepreneur, a small business, a mid-sized business owner, which means you got to kick it up some notches.
Yeah.
So, But I also bring in other people and their expertise. Right. So it's not all about me or Kelly Fair. If it is, there's a theme, take a note. It's a theme and a myth out there called the heropreneur. And it's something to be mindful of. They also have a thing called founder syndrome, where it's like, I got to be the one. I'm the hero. And a lot of times when they interview nonprofits, they will interview the founder. And so everybody thinks, oh, Kelly Fair's got that girl magic. She's the one. If you don't have her, she can't be it. No. You got to talk about the team, the volunteers, the other people who are part of the work. So it's a very real story about everybody who's involved and how they need to invest in all. So thank you.
Other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you obtain funding?
It's a variety. Oh, go ahead.
And then is your funding impacted by the recent administration cuts?
Yeah. So we get funding from a variety of different ways. It could be from government funders, from the city, from counties, from the state. We have a federal one as well. Not so much directly. We were coming towards the end of a lot of our grants. So if there were multi-year grants, 1 year, 2 or 3 years. And so a lot of times with those, like especially some that are connected to the state, it's based on a vote that happens downstate in the capital. So sometimes you're holding on to your seats because you're not sure whether or not they'll vote something in. So that's one aspect. Corporate sponsorship is really important. You can imagine with my program model, we're doing all those job shadows. We like going to those companies and asking them will they give and sponsor some of our programs. Private foundations are something that are really important in the nonprofit sector as well. Those could be family foundations. If you ever watch a PBS show, you can hear a lot of them. The Rockefellers, the MacArthur Foundation. Families will have some are known, some are not. And sometimes you have to have somebody who really knows how to find funds to do it. And then individuals. You know, we could do a better job at individual giving, but a lot of that has to do with, are you connected with the people who give to you? Are you keeping their emails up? Are you sending newsletters? Are you making the ads? Do you have good people doing your marketing and all those things? Staffing. Sometimes if you lose people, can impact that. So it could come from a variety of different ways. Yeah. Thank you. I saw this one and then I'll come over. Yes.
How did you think of killing the elephant?
How did I think of it?
Yeah.
You know, it was just one of those things. Like sometimes, I don't have that as one of the skills, but I believe in trusting your gut. You know, you got to be observant and pay attention. So when I started that job again, I told you I didn't know anything about marketing, but I had a notebook that was probably this thick, and I just took notes all the time, and I reviewed my notes, and I paid attention to how people talked about my product, how they felt about it, and I was like, people hate this product. And so then I thought, it would be funny if we killed the elephant. And you got to sometimes go with it, right? You got to trust your gut. That's that kind of still small voice to say, hey, give it a go. And if it's funny to you, then 9 times out of 10, it's probably funny to other people too. But I did not take that risk completely, right? I like taking risks. But I went to my boss. She's the VP of marketing. And I said, I was thinking about doing this. And she cracked up laughing. She was like, do it. So again, you know, I lead through, I don't make too many decisions without running it by other people. And sometimes everybody may say yeah, and then some people say no, and I weigh it out, and I may do it or not. But yeah, I just kind of went with my gut. And usually if I think it's crazy and funny, then somebody else does as well. Yeah, thank you. That was a good question. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I know you said that you go to a lot of areas that have like diversity in language. So you probably see a lot of people that speak like Arabic, French, Swahili, all of that. Do you ever like mentor those girls? Like how do you kind of deal with those language barriers, I guess?
So yes, I think that we do with the resources that we have and with the capacity that we do. So I think in those instances, some of those girls in those communities may come from homes that speak different languages, but they were able to speak English. So there's a lot of work that has to go into professional development and training of your staff to make sure that they don't have any biases, that they're open and they're thinking about how to communicate and convey with every single girl. So absolutely. Chicago is a sanctuary city, and so with it being a sanctuary city, we've had an influx in the last couple of years of a lot of migrants from different countries like Venezuela, which means those are non-English speaking and Spanish speaking students. And here's the conundrum. The schools don't have translators. So unfortunately, in many instances, these kids are sitting in the schools, and then they put them in college public, they don't introduce us, don't let us know. I observed one of my classrooms, and there's 4 girls sitting at a library table saying nothing. I'm like, well, what's going on with that? And they're like, they just got here. And so if the schools aren't equipped with translators, I don't have the budget to necessarily have them. So we've worked hard to try and get bilingual facilitators, but then we run into some problems with that too. So I'll give this and I'll move on. So, if you got a bilingual facilitator that can work with the Spanish-speaking girls, then the girls who are English-speaking get mad and they don't feel like working, because that's what middle schoolers do. They love you today, they can't stand you tomorrow, because they just can be real temperamental. So they're impatient. Then sometimes we'll split the groups, but then there's segregation. So it's really trying to work to find solutions to keep that level of unity, but to make sure that every girl gets served adequately. So we wrote a grant to the Northwestern University Memorial Hospital. They have an ARC community grant to build our cultural competency in serving girls from Latinx communities. So we'll be taking a look at the research to see if anything's out there about best practices. My gut tells me that unfortunately I don't think that there is, but we'll also have to build partnerships with other organizations to help us understand and make sure that we're representing core values that come from that community, familial values. How do we help the girls find voice in ways that are culturally appropriate? So, sometimes you got to be honest to say, we're doing this and we want to support the best way we can, but we're learning how to do it. And so I think that's been our best practice, is try and find out how to get support and work on it. But yeah, so we don't, everybody gets served. Everybody gets served. Great question. Yes, ma'am. I don't come.
What organizations do you have the job shadows in Chicago?
So we work with a variety of them. Companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Hyatt, they're small boutique hotels, they're small black-owned businesses. There's a seafood restaurant called Two Fish. Dynamic, all the kids love it. Like when they hear they're going to Two Fish, they're like, oh my God, it's my favorite restaurant. But she was a really smart businesswoman, pivoted in the pandemic, because nobody's coming into the restaurant the same way. She does seafood boils. So now she distributes frozen seafood with the seafood boils. You can make it at home. She distributes nationally through a lot of the big grocery store chains. So now the girls get a chance to see what the national distribution and the packing center looks like. Then we do construction. So they may see a construction work site, see what it looks like to work in HR, PR. We got the Cowgirl Collective. We're actually doing the city's first all-girls construction conference in the beginning of May. So 3 days. Where they get to see what a welding looks like, electrician work, carpentry, masonry, get a chance to see all of those things. So we really like mixing it up. And that comes from people who learn about us and say, I would love to host the girls. So that's where you are engaging another stakeholder or customer, volunteers who become donors and long-time supporters, maybe board members, etc. And then sometimes I'll pitch in and go into companies to say, I want you. So it comes from a variety of different ways. Yeah, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering how you pick your team, and then how do you hold them to those standards that are best for your girls?
So, over the years, it's been different phases and how we've gotten different team members. For a while, we were in that initial phase where mostly everybody was a part-timer, but a lot of people were part-time entrepreneurs. So they had the flexibility because they kind of controlled their own work schedule. They can go into the schools and work in the afternoon, that kind of thing. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I really like that era of Polished Pebbles because an entrepreneur addresses work a little bit differently. They're very serious, very goal-oriented, contracting, and they're going to get it done. Then we sometimes will take in interns from Masters of Social Work programs, different things like that, and then we try to groom those students up and create somewhat of an internal career pipeline where they may start off as a facilitator, become a coordinator. That's really great, and I love it, but it's labor intensive. And when you're already stressed trying to do a lot of other things, sometimes it becomes really challenging to continue to make the level of investment and amount of training challenges that hit the nonprofit sector is being able to attract top talent, to have the resources to do so, and then be able to maintain them and keep them. So we do job postings and announcements. We go maybe to sometimes to universities as well. Referral, word of mouth. We've actually been able to poach people from the school district as well. That's only when you get to the point you can provide full-time work, you can provide benefits, you've got to be competitive. So it could be a variety of different ways. Good question. Yes, sir.
Have you ever had somebody like come back from Polished Pebbles and join the organization?
Oh, and work?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. So we had a facilitator, and then we promoted her up to marketing coordinator. And for a minute, she was like our marketing manager as well. Her sister was in Polished Pebbles. She was around us. So she was like one of our kind of first Polished Pebbles family. So it's a really, joy to have, students come back. We've got our first board member. That was one of the first Polished Pebbles as well. She just finished Yale Law, and so she's an attorney. So it's always gratifying to have the students come back and, be able to create the space for them to contribute to the work too. And as you can imagine, those become really great success stories that you can use when you're pitching the donors to talk about the organization as well.
So when you were talking about like the competitiveness of nonprofit organizations, but also working with other orgs, what type of orgs do you work with? And then I guess like how do you manage the competition other than doing what you're already doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, now I'm going to have some people that are very Camp Kumbaya. It's like, it's not a competition. Don't say that, Kelly. And it's not, it's not. At the end of the day, I don't care. Oh, you're a nonprofit leader. I have this thing where I don't do me like I'm a charity girl. Like, don't do that, right? And I feel very strongly about that. You can just hear from my professional background, like, you should not play with me. I mean, I've done work globally, I work corporate, I work faith-based. I have done it all. So I am a highly trained professional. So don't do me with the charity thing. But I'll be a charity girl for you sometimes if you want to write the right kind of check. But I say that to say, it's still a business. It's still a business. And so you still got to know and be excited about other people creating programming that's very similar. But now I got to come back to the same funder, and they're like, so-and-so and them, they're doing it too. But I got to understand, but here's how I do it. Here's how it matters. You guys got to know what your strengths are, where you're growing, and that kind of thing. And if we're all doing it the same and quite as well, then maybe I need to change and switch some things up. But it's not all competitive. Well, my mom's got the camera going. It's not all competitive. In many ways, we do very much collaborate, and we have to, particularly girl and women organizations and girl-serving organizations. Globally, only 1% of all the philanthropic dollars go to girls and women's organizations. Just 1%. Yes. And when it comes to organizations led by women of color or BIPOC individuals or girls and women of color, it gets even less. So the investment, I mean, we just finished March, and everyone's like, Women's History Month is somebody's thing. And Provident, and I'm like, this is me with all the tampon commercials, okay? Write the check and invest in me and trust me, right? And grow with me over time, through the good, the bad, the ugly, because they do with the big business dogs, they do with the big politicians, they keep getting. So I say this, shout out to the Coalition on Urban Girls. It was formerly known as the Southside Coalition on Urban Girls. We're a collaborative of girl-serving organizations in the Chicagoland area, and we pretty much banded together because that is an injustice. So we work together, we put together white papers and research about why our work matters, how it matters, present it to universities, to other kind of stakeholders and entities to really say, hey, our work matters, it has impact, girls matter, and this is the challenges that girls are faced on, to constantly get people to invest and support our work and grow. So there's a lot of, and then at a higher level, or just a different level, is former First Lady Michelle Obama has the Girls Opportunity Alliance, which is kind of like the girl counterpart to President Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper. So that kind of brings together a task force of different organizations as well. So we do convene, we do kind of work together collectively to advocate on our behalf. But it's still a business. You gotta know what you're doing, where you're going, and how you reposition, and how you want to move strategically based on how you see the market going, where you see funding going. If you got really strong people on your teams, sometimes you have to say, I can't take this grant because I know we don't have the capacity to do it. Or you got to say, God, Kelly feels a little bit tired of this type of things. At 15 years, how do I continue to be impactful and make, but do it easier? This moment for me has been really full circle. I met a young lady over at the Tippy College of Business yesterday, and it kind of just reminded me of myself. At this point, I'm finding the need that I need to take up more space, to be quite frank. I've been enough in the global entities, local entities, national entities, and programs, and my ideas do matter. Some of the things that I put together, there's a gap in other organizations and communities don't have it. So I'm kind of standing on like, no. We need to move and do this, and I should be the one to do the training. I'm that voice. There are other voices, but I have a voice that matters, and I need to be comfortable at where I am as a leader at this point. And kind of coming full circle and coming back here, reminded of who I was in 2003, and it's a great reminder to me now as to who I need to be from this point moving on. I'm gonna come here. Oh, but you know what? We might, because we haven't gotten a guest.
You mentioned that you kind of had to pivot for some challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've been facing?
It's kind of in the pandemic, everybody was nervous that they weren't going to have work, so everybody was like real nice. When you hired them, like everybody wants work. Yes, we love work. And then they loved it because it was virtual, so they didn't have to go anywhere. But then when we opened back up, and now you're in all these schools, I need you to go from this school and that school, and then so they're like, oh, I don't want to go in that neighborhood. I don't want to go in that community. And it's not so much. In our team, it wasn't so much that they didn't want to work with that particular community or that type of girl. It's just they didn't want to travel. And so it's like, well, hey, pandemic, we didn't have to go anywhere. So it's like, let me put it out here and say I don't want to do that. Let me see what they'll do. And as an employer, that is very challenging to deal with. Because you feel like if you press too hard, you might lose that person, and you got to replace them, and it becomes a chronic problem. The other part was us as an employer, we hadn't figured out certain things. We had everybody only working hourly and part-time, but we didn't have people traveling from, I just said 900 square miles. That's a lot of travel time. So we were only paying people based on the time that they were prepping for the sessions and getting in front of kids. So now you're not compensating for travel time, which makes people really mad. So it was a little bit on both sides and say, how do you figure this out on the accounting side? And you got to make sure you got the right accountants and all those kind of people that do your operational work as well. So turnover can be really challenging. When people come and go, they take a job. So be mindful about that. They take a job and really don't want to stay. I say to people all the time, like, we're in Chicago and it's a big city, but it's a small town. I will see you again, or you may need that person again, right? So, you got to be mindful about how you show up and how you leave a space as well. So I think those are the challenges. Funding is always somewhat of a challenge. And then just the crazy things. So one of the things one of my friends said, and again, this doesn't go on video, but it could, is that she's like, I said, we ought to have a party at my house where, because my mom had brought up something about some experience with some employee that just did some crazy stuff. And I was like, I forgot about that, because I kind of have to block some of the stuff out to be able to keep going. And I was like, we should have a party where we just all mention the crazy things, and I'm going to put it together in like my next book. And then my girlfriend was like, yeah, but then we got to take a shot every time somebody makes it. So it may wind up being a really good party. Maybe you'll catch a little bit on Instagram, I don't know. But, it's always something. And I think when you love what you do and you see the bigger picture, you can kind of deal with it. You got to have strong support systems, whether that's family, friends, and then you can build those with fellowships and different programs and colleagues that support you and then mentors that can kind of help you move through it. But it's always something. Yes.
So you talked about taking up space, and I was thinking, like, have you ever considered taking up space in like the women's realm of that? Because I'm sitting here at 21, and you're obviously super inspiring and stuff, and I'm knowing like a lot of people or like women in the workforce would connect with this message as well. So is that something you've ever thought of?
So yes, so I think you guys have got the book. So so this one is the first one I published in 2016. And so at this point, I kind of took a lot of my blogs and put them together, and then wrote some other things where I thought it was really important to start sharing with people in the field. So it's kind of always been in the back of my mind. I I'm invested in transformational leadership happening with the people who are working directly with girls and also with you guys as a target so that I can replace myself and then me and Jennifer can go on vacations and retire and just check in with you guys about all your success and you can send us checks and money to support our retirement lifestyle.
Yes, lean on the beach and just, you know.
But then I did Every Girl's a CEO, so I had a student book. The instructor's manual is the third one that we're working on so that this becomes this trainer-trainer model. But the other one I'm working on is for college-age women and those for early professionals because I realized how important mentorship was for me at this stage and also when you're launching and making that transition into that first career. How do you negotiate different pay? How do you know when you need to chill out? You know, I want to take up space. Maybe you don't. Maybe the space you need to take up is learn and listen and kind of be comfortable with that. You need those real kind of things and people who work with you. So yeah, that's definitely a group. The difference that I want to do this time is I want to be published that time. I'm tired of doing these. I've all self-published. But that one, I want to get published that I got a publisher that does my marketing, puts me on a book tour, and I become a highly paid author and speaker. So hold that in your consciousness. But yeah, that's my goal in the next target group I'm working on. Because I realize that the needs are there. I know how critically important, and I also think there was some loss there with the pandemic. That real life experience of getting out and getting internships and placement is so powerful to help you kind of put everything together. You could come out and be very young and inexperienced, but really be a game changer on your team. But I've been working since I was 13 years old. Not because my parents forced me to work. Don't go. It would be retroactive, so you can't make my mother go to jail. But I just always wanted to kind of like work. I thought I was like a career woman. So those experiences became really key. So I think it's important that we be a constant learner, observer. So yeah, those are a lot of lessons and things that I'm excited to be able to share soon with this demographic. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any opportunities for girls wanting to go into medicine?
So actually April 15th or 16th, we've done some stuff before, but we're calling it the White Coat Apprenticeship. So one of our supporters, Dr. Heather Prendergast, is like a leading researcher and an ER physician in the UI Health medical district in Chicagoland. And so, and she's actually how we got girls from Jamaica to be in our global conference because she's originally from Jamaica as well. So she's actually hosting the girls, and she has, again, gathered so many individuals and her colleagues from different specialties in the medical field. So the girls that get to go on that trip is going to be powerful. I mean, they're going to get exposed to so many different aspects of medicine. So we'll be really excited to push that one out. So I kind of got some key things I'm pushing out that, again, kind of keep me in that trailblazing space. So again, I can go vacation and chill out and do fewer events. But that one is that Cowgirl Collective piece that we did, the equestrian industries. The other is the construction conference and that White Coat Apprenticeship. I think is another one that we really want to lift. One, because Dr. Heather Prendergast is like the mom.com, and she's the type of, I'm hoping to get her on my board as well. But again, it just kind of lists and talks about the different opportunities that are available. So yeah, that one's in the works in a few weeks. Yeah. And those are the ones that I go out and I observe too, even at this level. So a lot of job shadows I don't go on anymore, but you gotta go because you still gotta spot check and make sure. Like I wasn't pleased, and, you know, when we talk about training staff, I wasn't pleased with the job shadow I went to on Monday, right? I think the company could have done better things. I think my staff person could have done more to prepare the girls, but then also I had to take some accountability that we've been moving fast. This is a staff member that doesn't have quite as much education and experience. So if she doesn't have the professional experience to reflect and be able to give that to the girls, I gotta own that, right? And so that becomes a challenge, and to me, the girls are not quite as ready, and that makes me nervous. Makes me nervous because then the companies are like, hey, well, these girls were nicer than the girls last year. I'm like, what happened last year? And then you got to build those relationships that I have to give the comfort to our professional partners to say, look, let me tell you something. You got my cell phone number, you got my cell phone number. Tell our staff that something wasn't where it needs to be. So now some structures got to be put back in place, some debriefing, some other opportunities, some training. But it's also giving me insight, because remember where I want to go with this. I am pitching school districts all over. Y'all know anybody at Iowa City Public Schools, Quad City Public Schools, you know, tell them like, pitching it, it keeps me fresh on. So how would this show up if I gave somebody a box of books for their kids and gave them an instructor's manual? How would that person be able to retrain those girls to show up at that company? Would they be able to maintain that relationship with that company? And that would only be if I'm training them in a certain way. So I'm constantly thinking more about how I'm going to position that product to make it exactly what it needs to be. But I'm comfortable doing that because I'm calling it what? A pilot. And giving myself space to kind of know that, hey, we're figuring this thing out as you perfect it. So, great question.
We are out of time,
Yay.
and this was amazing. Thank you so much. And I will certainly put on icon contact information and stuff like that. So and of course you're all over the. I guess I'm going to do that. So yeah, great. Oh, thanks for writing that. What's that? So.